Greetings, Earthling. I'm JJ Fomby.
And I'm Junior.
From On the Line. We back at you. And so today, we got a guest. And the guest name is Alex Harris. Mr. Alex Harris, would you please introduce the people to yourself?
Hey, what's going on to the people out there? Well, I'm honored to be here. I'm Alex Harris. I am the younger brother of the legendary Slick Ricky Harris, known as AKA to some of y'all, DJ Easy Dick, W Balls. So I am the younger brother from Eastside Long Beach, and I was invited down here so we can have some talk, some discussion, some tabletop about current events, what's going on. And not only am I from Long Beach, but I also am been in law enforcement 19 years, currently working for the U.S. government. I used to be a city cop from the city and worked for the government in a couple of capacities. And so with the ongoing issues, Breonna Taylor, the deaths of Mr. Floyd, it's just it was brought to me by a couple of people. She get out there, start talking about it, and I was offered an opportunity to come hang out and let's have some knowledge and break bread between all of us as we start to intermingle the city problems, cop problems, race problems, where they come from, why are they an issue, how do we deal with them, why do we have corruption, why are there so many things that are going on with law enforcement. And that's just some of the things that we're going to talk about, I believe, and from there that's where I'm at. And I'm Alex Harris. You can Instagram me, Alex Harris LBC, and whatever we need to talk about.
That's what we'll do today.
Yes, so, Junior, what's up?
Go on, get at him, man. How at
Well, first of all, thank you for spending time with us, hanging out. I know you got a tight schedule out there,
and appreciate you showing up.
Also, me being from Compton, we all aware of what's going on.
You put that out there on the table.
We can deal with that.
We all aware of what's going on out there. But my question to you is, out of your years of being in law enforcement, all the things you have seen, all the things that you have been involved with, I mean, God, there's just so much. And what now that you probably tapering off towards retirement or whatever, the things you can talk about, man. Why is this stuff? It's been going on, but
no
now
doubt.
it's just so right in your face.
You know why? It's always been going on. It's just being filmed.
Yes, it's just in your face. It's like TV commercials now.
Film now.
And
well, it was always filmed too. You got to think about it. I mean, if you go back in history, none of it is really a secret. When you think of the 60s, the March on Washington, when you think of these things, they're not oblivious to history. Then now I think with not only technology, but I think you got a lot of younger guys. I'm a younger troop, been in law enforcement about almost 19 years now, and now I'm in a management position, ranking somewhere around number 3. And so I look at things differently. The way I grew up is different. Fumby knows me from being from the neighborhood, and his background completely different than my background.
Oh yeah.
But here's the thing: I know so many Fumbys, but not a lot of Fumbys know Alex Harris's. So that's half the problem.
Well worth it.
And so that's always been one of my things about living in the city, especially having my brother, who he is. I've always been behind the scenes. I've done a lot of security for him, but in his passing, I try to keep him present. That's why I keep his image around. But I also am blessed to have the background that I have coming from the city, knowing people like Fumby, chopping it up, because I've been asked a lot of times behind the scenes from people who've done some wild things in their life, right? But I'm not God, and I don't judge people. Whatever people do is what they do. Just don't do it around me. I'm not robbing nobody. I'm not with all that. I think a lot of that is silliness. But I think the number one reason why we have all that comes down to influence. Why people are doing things, because they have no positive influence or alternative influence. So if you've never been on a boat and actually driven one or been on the water with one, seeing one is completely different than experiencing one. Moreover, what if you don't have anyone that you know with a boat? So it's no different than just the image. You got to remember, dreaming without an action is just thought. So that's where we're at now. So to touch back on what you were saying about the 2 deputies shot in Compton, and Thank God that they're fine. I don't know what was going on with the young man who did that. But to touch on that, why that happens, I don't know specifically this guy's MO or his modus operandi, if you want to be policing in it. But
That's it.
if you want to be from the street, I don't know what this cat got going on in his head to make him want to do that. But here's the thing. It's a reflection of what's really going on in the streets with the communities. That's the problem. And it's ongoing more and more, and it's coming out more and more, which is a problem. So when you look at that, what really is the issue is you have a disconnect. And the disconnect is the respect for the police, respect for the citizens, and vice versa. Those two deputies being shot was nothing direct as in their actions, but more of an indirect of how the society has been going and the lack of respect on both sides. And that's what really the problem is. So when we look at that and other issues, that comes down to really the relationships between the streets, police, law enforcement, race, economics, etc.
Now, I'm going to go back a few months. Me and him had a disagreement, and I'm still going to stand with my disagreement with him. But he was saying that if you have somebody who comes from the neighborhood, such as yourself, that polices the neighborhood, it'll be a better outcome. As far as, because you know the neighborhood, you know these guys, you went to school with them, you know their parents and all that stuff, play Pop Warner Sports and all that stuff. You think that's a good idea, or that'll help?
I think it absolutely is a good idea. Is that going to solve or mitigate the issues? Man, that really depends on the person. If you got a little kill him up, and he kill him up don't like the police for whatever reason, no different than a Crip who don't like a blood, an SA who don't like blacks. If that's their mission, you can't stop the mission. If that's what's in their brain, that's where influence comes in, where we have to have a positive influence and say, you know, what is really going on? There is a nexus or a connection between those like myself who are from the city, as someone from Long Beach, living in Long Beach, and as a Long Beach cop. I can tell you right now on record, I've had more problems with my inner department than I have on the streets. I can tell you on record right now that I've been in some very weird situations with individuals where I've been outnumbered 4-1, 2-1. I've been outnumbered where I had a car full of Hispanics stop, and I'm a black officer, and people get to talk in Spanish. I know a little bit of Spanish, as we all do, even in Long Beach, a little bit of something, but you know, we teach you this stuff in the police department. But I can tell you I had a tussle, and I know for myself, I had individuals sitting out on front of they stoops or their patio area who were out there looking out for me, and they knew me. I never even knew some of these people, but they knew my brother, and they was like, "Hey, little Harris, you know, we got your back." Not one time did I think about that. Cops showing up, my partner showing up, we're doing our police thing, we get them. So why do I not have those challenges, or why didn't I have those challenges? Now, I've had people shoot at me. I've been involved with some things like that, absolutely. I've been involved with people wanting to fight. I've been involved with individuals who came fresh off the yard, ready to knock out every cop in the world. I get it. Some people are always going to be them. You can't change that. The only thing you can do is have a positive influence to impact those. And when I decided to be in law enforcement, that was my thing. I grew up with a lot of young cats who were killed. In fact, I can tell you vividly, there's a couple cases in general where, as a street cop in the city, I had friends and family of friends killed that I was part of, and none of my officer partners knew that I knew them personally.
Ooh, that's heavy.
And to hear the comments they make, the statements,
in front pictures, of you, not knowing that you know directly connected to these people.
And the pictures they take. So, you know, individuals look at that. Some, you know, for me, they just don't know because there's no connection. See, there's no nexus there. So we don't have no respect for the dead or this issue or what's going on because, man, they ain't with us. Well, you know, they them.
It's just another one.
Yeah, it's just like, Fomby, you've been on the yard before from your experiences. When you have an inmate who may have got shanked up, died, whatever, are the COs like, hey, hey, this and that? It's like, hey, that's just another, it's just another dude.
As we say in the world's part of the game.
Right.
Business as usual.
But you growing up in Long Beach, knowing, growing up with your guys that went this way, and you decided to go that way, what was your mindset to be like, you know what, I'm gonna try this out?
Influence. So, I'm big in leadership, especially having an educational background, being in law enforcement as a leader right now. Influence is the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that we have going. So I had some mentors at a young age who were cops and firemen, just from growing up in the early 90s with so many shootings. It was rampant in the city.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
90s was a war zone.
when I'm 10, 11, 12, 13, it was, it was out of control. My sister died my older sister died down in Skid Row, involved with, prostitution, etc. So I seen what it is to have that grimy life or that struggling life, or whatever adjective you want to call it. I also knew that there could be things better, because I'm like, not everybody struggling and poor and having all this part of their life every day. So individuals from the police department and the fire department have been there to help be influences to me. And so when I got those influences, I got to see what it is to be ride on a boat, not just see one. So now I'm like, wait, hold up. You mean we can get out here and get to Catalina? I'm from Long Beach, and I never went to Catalina. And I know a lot of homeboys right now, people from the neighborhood, or just, they ain't even got to be homeboys. I know a ton of people from Long Beach ain't even been to Catalina.
Yeah.
So the first time, imagine going, and you in a private boat with some white folks. Not my people. We're talking about the opposite people, who are like, man, let me show you what else you can do. And I'm like, man, this is crazy.
That's nothing just to go to
Listen, you like, man, you got a boat. We struggle out, let alone a boat.
Yeah. See, that's where I think the disconnect comes from as a kid, because we all grew up in the inner city, and our thought process, even mine, was like, cops are bad.
Right, I understand. Yeah.
Playing, we could be in the street playing football. Soon as we see that car hit the corner, we running. We done nothing wrong.
Got to push.
Nothing wrong, but we running. But why? Because it comes down from our parents being harassed by the cops, our grandparents, and so forth and so on. So we just automatically think, fuck them. The cops are not our friends. But at the same time, you have to have that approach. And when you say, you know what, let me give this guy a chance, because now riding on the fire truck as a kid was every fucking thing. We don't want to ride in fucking police car. We don't give a fuck about your siren. Right. But being on the fire truck, going through the neighborhood or in a parade, that was everything. So firemen was well respected growing up as a kid. Even playing games, cops and robbers, nobody wanted to be the fucking cop.
Right. Right.
But how did you coming from the inner city embrace that as growing up to where cops were bad? But how did you embrace it to be like, you know what? Let me see what's going on. How did you connect there?
So, that's a unique thing. So my influence first came from the fire department. And I got involved with the Police Explorer program, which is a program through the Boy Scouts that's connected directly to the police department. Police Explorer program. Long Beach actually didn't have one. The fire department had it, called Search and Rescue. But when I got involved with Search and Rescue, I was like, yeah, fire stuff is cool. Now, this is at 15 years old. I started to do ride-alongs. At 15 years old, I saw my first homicide with a dude who got shot a few times on the west side of Longo. And the paramedic at the time, who was a really good friend of mine to this day, had me get out, put rubber gloves on, and touch him. I will never forget this, 15th and Harbor. And he said, I want you to touch him and understand how you're going to be if you keep living the way you're living. If you allow yourself to be like this.
Did that scare you?
And then, this is the crazy part. It's not that it scared me, it's just reality. So, it was nerve-wracking, more nervous, not scared.
Okay.
But what he hit me with was, now he was shot by his own friends, his own homeboys, his own hood. That's what our real problem is. And that's why when we see blacks, young minorities, etc., especially more in the inner city community, we have a lot of competition among ourselves. It's not so much against other people. It's ourselves. There's people that like I know, that are famous from these streets and these cities, I don't see their house or their business in the same neighborhood, because the jealousy and the problems ain't from the people outside that city. And I'm not saying names, I'm not trying to get in all that, but
We follow you.
you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, there's a reason. So you rise up and you like, time to skate, I'm out of there. So now everybody else is just looking up like, man, he was here, and now he and you can't talk to him no more. he ain't touchable.
Unaccessible.
He's not there anymore.
Unless you turn on the radio or the TV.
Right, like it's like an airplane. You see it flying, but you can't see the people. So it's no different. So now, how do you change that? Sometimes you got to land that plane right back down in the neighborhood. You got to make that plane accessible and say, look, I get you didn't grow up and having enough money, or you don't have the skills or the knowledge, etc. But I'm gonna throw you in this plane because 1, I have one, 2, I can afford it, and it ain't gonna change my life. But more than anything, that pilot, the people who run that airplane, have to want to see you be successful. That's where a lot of it come from. So what changed me? I had people who were not black in my life said, I want to see you successful. Whatever that success may be, not necessarily in law enforcement, out of firemen.
Well, whatever.
Just, man, don't be on the street like a lot of your people. It's sad when you live in a city that you start knowing cops and firemen and first responders just because you see them responding all the time to your neighborhood.
Yeah.
You like, oh man, that's Sergeant Jones. We see him every week. Yeah. He's gonna be down there on Saturday. You can't do that in Beverly Hills.
No.
You ain't gonna see that in Malibu, but you're gonna see that in Compton. You're gonna see it in South LA. You're gonna see it in East Long Beach. You're gonna see that. So we have to start changing that. So that's one reason why I never left Long Beach. I'm not afraid. Have there been some situations and issues I ran into as a cop? Absolutely. Off duty with my kids, I've had things happen. But I'm also a well-trained individual at the end of the day. I'm not a dummy.
Right.
So not only am I from the neighborhood, but I'm also a trained individual. I had a firearm like they got a gun. So if we got to meet war to war, I mean, we might be a matched item here. So what really are you hiding with? So, but the flip side of that is being from the community, and in the community is where I've gotten so much love and respect to a point. Is there always, and this ain't gonna never change, even when Fomby sitting here, at the end of the day, people still see me as the police. That's no different than how people see me as being black in a white community.
Correct.
I'm the police. I'm with y'all. Fomby know me, but that's still like, man, that's, he the police. Fomby still he had nervous introducing it. I mean, you get what I'm saying? But that's okay for me. He ain't got to be that comfortable with me. I may not be that comfortable with him. But that doesn't. But that is where we have to, as a group, get together and say, look, we ain't gonna live without crime.
No.
And we not gonna live nowhere where criminals ain't gonna be amongst us. Vice versa is we not gonna live where there's no policing and law enforcement in our communities. So we just gonna try to shoot and kill everybody every day? I mean, at some point we gotta just say, look, it is what it is. Let's figure this out. And that's why we're seeing the cause and effect to this day of what happened in the early 50s, 60s, and way before that. And race is an issue. Race is an issue historically. Race is an issue currently. A lot of people keep forgetting the Constitution was written for black people to be only 3/4 of a person.
You're going
so if the Constitution of which we live in wasn't written to be inclusive or including us, where and when did you think the Constitution and those who created it thought we were designed to enforce it and represent it as lawyers?
That is correct. I always felt that way too, that you can't expect somebody to change a system that's for them, by them.
Correct. So with that being said...
Wait a minute, hold on.
But,
excuse me. Repeat that again, Junior.
I said I'm a firm believer in you can't expect people to change a system that's for them, by them.
And I say that's correct, but I think that's argumentative. And it's argumentative no matter what it is. Maybe it be law enforcement, corrections. You got cats in the prison yard that's got struggles, but look, I mean, they got cable TV. You got some cats in the neighborhood ain't got it right now.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it comes down to who is in that position that is going to, one, care, and two, influence those. And that's what it comes down to. Abraham Lincoln, when he signed to free the slaves, wasn't so much of pro-black as he was pro-change. See, he knew to change America, the blacks had to be included. I mean, he needed them in the war. How you gonna go to Civil War and be like, hey, I need all the slaves, y'all gonna roll with me? They gonna say, man, ain't anybody dealing with that, right? No different now. So he had to start being inclusive. Now, are we behind? When I say we, I'm referring to the black culture or community. And that's broadly speaking, because yes, we have successful black entertainers, black everybody. But that's still maybe between the top 5 percentile. Snoop from the city. It ain't too many Snoops from Long Beach.
No.
And in fact, it ain't too many Snoops in general.
Yeah, that is correct.
We think about Compton, LA, we can name the top people who are like, oh, them, they doing big. But if I ask y'all, name me some cops that was in the community that's black, that was like, hey man, homeboy, talk to me. Do you get what I'm saying?
Couldn't do it.
I mean, when Fomby just had me come talk to him, he like, man, I got another dude that I know, but that's a problem. But see, and it's interesting because we talk about influence. Now, if you ask my kids that question, that's nothing. See, my kids know influential people who are doctors, lawyers, cops, firemen, because of their daddy. They're like, well, that's just my daddy people.
Right.
My kids know homies who've been on the yard, etc. If I'm know my background. They don't look at him as a threat like some people do. They just like, oh, that's, Uncle such and such, or, whoever it may be. Because of
keep pushing
the influence, and we are who we are.
So when you started moving through the years as in law enforcement, you making your rank and stuff like that, did you decide, or was it automatically, okay, now I was influenced, let me be somebody's influence?
Kinda, sorta. I wasn't never trying to be an influential person. If somebody would have called me 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I wouldn't sit here in front of no camera and have no dialogue. Like I told you today, it's funny. Y'all don't believe me. I just told them today. I've been on Instagram 3 days.
Yeah, you did say, yeah. You still gotta help me with that.
I still have a private side because of what my eyeballs have seen and my ears have heard. So I limit my exposure.
Okay.
Not only that, but you got to flip this out. I haven't retired yet. I mean, even though I'm approaching, I have the years, I don't have the age, but I'm approaching where my career is, I'm getting closer to being done real soon here. And now because of that and what I have seen over my years, I'm like, it's time to step up and say something, because there are things that I've seen I 100% disagree with.
Every day I wait, feel like my life on the line. Jungle in these streets, speak the beats on the line. Hustle to increase, put it all on the line. House, big spouse, family, freedom, walking yards on the line. Every day I wait, feel like my life on the line. Jungle in these streets, speak the beats on the line. Hustle to increase, put it all on the line. House, big spouse, family, freedom, walking yards on the line. Every day on the line. Every day, every day.